Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast about the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we will try to keep a straight face because we were giggling and laughing and acting all kinds of strange in the pre-show. And I learned that if you give acid to Willy Wonka, you have the new graphic novel somebody might be writing. I mean, you had me at acid trip, but I have been in the infantry, so
it's big and exciting, but it's totally way down a different rabbit hole. So
all right. Well, you'll have to come back and talk to us, but
absolutely
give us advance warning so we can get Nick to take some block leave so we can both trip acid as we do this, but it gets out of his system before he goes back to work.
I don't have that much leave, man.
Dang it. Well, hell, I'll do the acid for you. There we go. Joking, like family friendly.
I'll have a nice bourbon or four.
All right. So, Chloe, can you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers at home?
Yes, I am Chloe Garner, the authoress of all manner of crazy science fiction, fantasy, urban fantasy, paranormal, and a little bit of horror. And today, I am a science fiction author.
Wait. Okay. We're going to talk about science fiction, but I've just been thinking, since you said you wrote horror, they took Winnie the Pooh when it became like, what's that open franchise? What's the word? Public domain.
Public domain.
Brain damage is kicking in today, okay, people? When it became public domain, they turned it into a slasher flick, Blood and Honey. Could we do that to Willy Wonka? Willy Wonka as a slasher flick.
Jeez, you don't even have to take it 2 steps away from where it started. It's already creepy.
You thinking it's the Oompa Loompas that are the slashers, or is it Veronica Salt and her,
No, it's the mysterious tunnel, and nobody told anybody what was going to happen, and all of a sudden everything is just weird, and where are we going, and what's going to happen next? And all you have to have is like somebody die violently in the next moment. It's completely prepped. It's all there.
But who is the slasher? So I'm saying I'm thinking that the Oompa Loompas have it in them.
Willy Wonka. Nobody knows what that dude's got in his head.
It's fair.
They made kid-friendly movies about his past, but they're not accurate.
I'm just saying that Grandpa was like welfare frauding the hell out of it because somehow he couldn't move, and then like the next day he's doing a jig. I'm just saying,
lazy ass.
Somebody was faking the funk, and Bill and it wasn't Uncle Sam because it was overseas, but Bill and the Queen or something, or was it the King? I'm just saying welfare fraud. All right.
I don't know if it was welfare fraud. He's definitely a lazy sack of shit.
Well, he was getting like assistance, right? That's how he was feeding his family.
Yeah, I got some assistance for him.
The parents paid for everything. They just sat 4 in a bed and played canasta all day.
There we go. All right. So normally, and this is you had no prep for this, Chloe, but normally we would tell the guests or the listeners and the viewers, how we first met you, but you've been on too many times. We figured that's getting old hat, and I'm out of ideas to make up something stupid to make people giggle. So instead, I'm going to ask you this. What is one neat fact about yourself that nobody knows right now on the show?
I was at a writer's conference this past fall and sitting in a circle with a whole bunch of thriller authors. My friend asked, okay, which of you guys has the highest body count in your books? And they're looking at each other trying to figure out which one of them is the most violent and the most gory. I'm like, oh, that's me, guys. Because I definitely have a book where I took a guy's eyeballs out and duct taped them to a window and then tacked his beating heart to the door in order to ward the room from demons.
God damn, Chloe.
I when I say borderline horror, it's because I don't really know where the line was as I crossed it.
No, you crossed it like 3 lines ago.
I know.
I'm just saying, as someone who's written some space opera, for a while, J.K. would do the apology letter every year for, this character death or that character death. I would have to apologize for death by the regiment or death by the planet. And I'm not sure I would, in my lifetime, get through all the people we've killed in my mill sci-fi.
Well, JR smokes entire companies.
You have the faceless legions that die facelessly. I have up close and personal that I definitely have the biggest body count of anybody in a circle of authors, that because I wrote some dark stuff there for a while, and it's really super optimistic and it's pretty happy, and like it's all seriously still Noble Bright. This is my brand, but geez, these things have got a body count.
So you're getting a kick out of this. There's at the time of recording, right before Valentine's Day, there's a video floating around. It's the guy asked this girl that he's interested in, they're kind of quasi dating, what her body count is, and obviously he's asking for the
innuendo version of that.
The innuendo version of that, because I was trying to keep it family friendly. And instead, she drags him by the hair out into what it becomes a train yard. And he goes, "Who told you? Did they send you after me? I buried the bodies. I checked. They're decomposing like they're supposed to." And she just goes on this rant. And he's just looking at her like, She's like, "You're one of them, aren't you?" And she starts reaching behind her back, and it fades to black as she's reaching behind her back like she's grabbing a weapon. And I shouldn't laugh because it's so freaking dark, but I couldn't help myself. If I find it, you know what? I'm going to make a point after I hit my word count today, dear listener. I will find that video and I will pin it to the whatever in the Blasters and Blades Facebook group. You will enjoy the insanity. But you know what, Nick? She could have been one of us. She'd have fit right in the infantry companies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
With gallows humor? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
One of us. One of us.
Of course, when you've met Chaplain Strucker, who was the former Ranger, I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of his name, but you know what I'm talking
about? Yeah, he was my RIP instructor when I was going through Ranger Indoctrination Program. Oh, Mr. Garber, you have potty mouth. Why don't you do some push-ups?
I met him after he was a chaplain briefly, and when somebody was introducing, because they were trying to drag me to church and save me and all that nonsense. And so their sell for him was he stacked more bodies than a standard light infantry company. And I'm like, okay, that's one way to get people into church. Fear, the Inquisition. Yeah. No one expects the Ranger Inquisition, I guess.
They never expect the Ranger Inquisition. That's
never see that one coming.
No.
All right. So this is the Blasters and Blades podcast. So we are contractually obligated to do the religion question. So are you ready for this, Chloe?
I am prepared.
All right. Since you've done all the standard ones, we're going a little bit far in Nick's weird brain to get these. But Cowboy Bebop, Cowboys and Aliens, or The Mandalorian?
Cowboy Bebop is so warm and so charming and funny, actually genuinely funny. I really, really enjoyed it. I don't know the original source material, and I kind of wish that that was my vibe and I'd go dig into it. But the Netflix US adaptation was just a blast.
If I'm going to the Japanese films, such as they are, for me, the flagship Yamamoto, the idea of taking an actual terrestrial naval vessel and putting it in space, for whatever reason, amuses the hell out of me.
It was an aircraft carrier, too, and they just launched their space fighters off of it.
That's fantastic. It's such a good sense of humor.
And they use that in Robotech, too, the idea of that in Robotech. So I get it confused when they show the carrier for Robotech when it's out in space with Battleship Yamamoto. So I'm like, what show am I watching? Then I have to see if it's going to be a Verotech fighter or just a standard fighter flying off the deck of these things.
I mean, but am
I getting Rick Hunter or this random dude? I don't remember.
It matters.
It does.
It does. All right. And because we are polytheistic here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, Dark Towers, Supernatural, or Winona Earp?
That one's tough because all three of them have really strong points to them. But Winona Earp is my most recent. I've done the full watch through, and it's just it's a rollicking fun adventure with a bunch of people who are too drunk to care what's going on for most of the series.
I mean, who hasn't
got a good sense of play?
At one point in time, we were the most physically fit alcoholics on the planet. So I get it. All right. So, Nick, don't die. So we have asked you a lot of times about your favorite dinosaurs. So go look at our other episodes, and we've asked you about your favorite zoo animals. So instead, what is your favorite dragon?
Okay, so my answer here is wrong, and I'm going to start with that. But my favorite dragon is a phoenix. Because I think that a phoenix is a really interesting interpretation of a fire dragon. If you sort of go back as an evolutionary step where the birds and the flying lizards are all kind of the same thing, and this is the one that resurrects in fire. A phoenix is a species of dragon, and they're gorgeous and opinionated and immortal. And yeah, my favorite dragon is a phoenix.
Okay, and for the haters who are going to tell you that you're wrong, and you want to give an alternative just to placate the masses, what would you say is number 2?
Smaug.
Smaug.
Because Benedict Cumberbatch is incredible. And we've actually just recently watched The Hobbit for the first time in our family history. Like, we'd seen
the
it,
live action one?
Yeah, my children had not seen it before, and this is the first actual live action adventure, like swords and sorcery thing that they've done, because they're little enough that they're still like weaning off of Paw Patrol. And just Smaug is such an impression of what a dragon should be on so many mythological levels. It was fantastic to get to watch them experience that.
That's awesome.
That's a good choice. I mean, if I was going to go for my first exposure to dragon, it'd be Pete. Pete's dragon.
Yeah.
I want to see at one point. Yeah, I want to see the live action adaptation that they did semi recently. I haven't watched it yet because I was afraid it would like crush my nostalgia. Because that happens when they try to redo things, but
something that the value of it is mostly nostalgia to begin with.
Yeah, I don't know. So I've been like, do I want to? So Nick, what is your favorite dragon?
Spyro.
And what is Spyro from?
Dragon.
Yes.
He's from
I know Spyro.
He's from an old video game, and he was a purple fire-breathing dragon. That was awesome.
We have the
little engine that could, and made him a dragon.
What video game do you remember?
Spyro.
Spyro the Dragon.
Oh, okay.
He's in Skylanders. And in Skylanders, he has a really big ego and is constantly making really stupid decisions out of a really big ego. He's one of the lead characters. So we definitely have Spyro action figures.
Nice.
Yeah.
As one does.
As one does.
Okay. So now that we've got that out of the way, if you're going to have food and beverage with a dragon, coffee, or are they going to have tea? And then what are you eating with it? You're going to have Coke. Okay.
I have glass bottle Mexican real sugar Coke tonight.
With real cane sugar.
But does it have real cocaine?
I wish. Like the cold treatments that you see people were taking back in the day where they were actually taking cocaine for their colds. I'm like, dude, I bet you felt better.
Hell yeah.
I want a piece of that.
Yeah. I need a Wayback Machine for that.
That's where you get the funny meme.
I have not grown up into the person that I expected to be.
Our stories have been so much weirder.
Oh, go on, Nick.
Well, yeah, because it goes back. I think this is the meme that you're going to reference. It's like, it must have been badass being an old-timey doctor. Hey, it sounds like you got ghosts in the blood. You should do cocaine about it. Well, all those ingredients were in Coca-Cola. There was like morphine, cocaine, and then a sugary, syrupy, delicious treat that goes along with it.
You roast some sugar until it's caramelized and you're done. That's good stuff.
Put in some soda water, give it a little stir, down the hatch. Let's have a good day.
You have that with breakfast.
Oh, yeah. Definitely lunch. That would go good with a burger. Just saying.
I hope your boss doesn't watch this show, Nick, because he might want to do some random drug testing. I'm just saying.
You can't do random drug testing because it's government. They call it like, oh, you were targeting.
Yeah, we picked you on purpose. There's no veil here.
Just tell me up front. All you're gonna get is like alcohol. Wow, why? That's a lot. I'm like, yeah, I know.
So Nick, this is the spiritual successor to the meme that you were talking about?
Yep.
Grandma said in her day she did 3 times the work you do. As Grandma's day, there was cocaine in the soda.
She got halfway to the grocery store until she realized she forgot her car.
I've heard that joke about people that accidentally put Red Bull instead of water in their coffee.
Okay, so little tangent. When I was going through the maneuver captain's career course, we were at the second phase. You have to be part of the battalion staff, so that's late nights while you go through your military decision making process and do op orders and shit like that. So as a joke, because we'd been joking about, it, I was like, but we're putting Red Bull in the coffee as opposed to water. So fill up the tank with Red Bull. Oh. So we were hurting at about 2 a.m, so we did that. And I was able to see sounds and hear colors.
As one should.
We talk about dumb boys. It's one of our things that, yeah, that's a dumb boy thing to do. Yeah, that's a dumb boy. That's a dumb boy thing to do.
I mean, I'd definitely try
that's the dumb boy brand. Like you could put a sticker on it. That's dumb boy.
Well, see, we have a saying for that.
No connection. I don't know.
So we have a saying for that, Chloe, and it's always, but did you die?
But did you die?
And the other one is, if future me doesn't come back and tell me not to do it, was it really that bad?
Yep.
Although I did a lot of really stupid stuff in the Army that I wish future me had come and said, hey, don't do that.
Actually knocked it off. Yeah.
Right. Like, I don't do that all the time.
Future us doesn't have access to a time machine yet.
That's problematic. There's all kinds of
grandkids come back and like, hey man, you should probably do that, Pops. Maybe then.
Yeah. All right. So normally, we would get to know you, but you've been on the show a lot. So how your creative process is so schizophrenic. How do you narrow it down and figure out like what is going to be the next Chloe Garner masterpiece?
I write everything on Post-it notes. You ready? It lives over here next to me.
Hold on, let me put your solo layout. So you're a serial killer. Go on.
Yes. So this started. This started in 2021 and went through 2024. This is 2025, and I am working my way down this list. And you see all these check marks here? They're all checked off. I write a 5-year plan, and I work every book on the list.
So what do you like writing, like 10,000 words a day or something nuts?
I have done 10,000 words a day turns into about 40 pages, and I have done it. My top is 26,000, but it's been a few years since I've managed that because my brain is being sucked out through my eyeballs doing life. But yeah, when I'm doing challenges, I can break 10,000 a day. I'm looking for 3,500 every single day. That's just my normal, just keep going. And with 3,500 a day, I ought to be able to finish a book every 20 days. Is that right? No, it's every 30 days I finish a book.
I kind of hate you. I wish my brain worked that way, but 37 concussions later. I really should start doing the grandpa thing, Nick, where we make it more every time. And by next season, I'll be like 400 concussions later. See here, kids.
And then you got to add something else too. And 16 amputations.
Right. Uphill both ways in the snow barefoot. Because we couldn't afford no shoes.
Extracted my dignity.
That's a line we ought to put in something.
Surgically extracted my dignity?
Yes. Let's write that down.
I want it on my tombstone, dude.
We're putting that in our short story for the next Christmas anthology.
Nice.
All right.
You got to keep a list of those. I got Post-it notes for all of that stuff over here.
Well, I found one.
An elf has to say it though.
Yeah. So I was driving my he's technically my great nephew. I don't like to say that because it made me feel old. So I'm just his uncle, but I'm really good at being his uncle. I'm so good, I'm great. See what I did there? And he was asking me what sleet was. He's like 5. And so I told him that sleet was just snowflakes that made poor life decisions. And then now I want to write that in a book.
Mm-hmm.
That broke Nick's brain. I can see it already. All right.
No, I got a story, but we're on a time hack.
Okay. So you use the Post-it serial killer plan to organize your insanity. But how do you determine what goes on that insanity list?
A lot of it is self-restraint from starting new series, because I always want to start a new series, and I actually have a new series planned for 2027, and I'm so excited because I haven't started a new series in like almost a year now. But a lot of it is just I have readers that send me these terrible emails like, I'm 75 and in good health and really enjoyed your Tell series. Am I going to be alive when the next book comes out?
Oh, that's dark.
And I'm like, Nancy, you are stone cold, dude. Wow, that is effective. So I have books that I've been promising for, it feels like years and years, but when you're writing as many books as I have, it's just a lot of books back. That these series, I don't know, I don't believe in ending a series. I don't think that that's a thing that happens, because if you've written interesting characters in an interesting world, tomorrow they're going to do something interesting. So how do you end? I mean, you can put Sam on the boat and float him away to paradise on the other side of the ocean while the paths are still straight instead of curved, and that's a great ending. But I don't understand how to end a series, so I don't. I end a book, and the ending of the book is good, but they're going to do something interesting tomorrow, and I'll come back and tell you about it when I get to it. And so all of my series are open-ended, and my plan this year is to revisit 3 of the series that have the most reader guilting, to come back and tell more of that story. And so Carbon Chronicles is just the first of 3 that I'm going to go back to and do 4 additional books in this year, because it's time, and I made these promises, and the characters are so much fun to write, and it's like going home and seeing old friends. So I'm doing that, and then I'm gonna let myself go back and write some more stuff in my fantasy universe for 2026. Well, I bank 12 books in a new series that will start coming out at the end of 2026 and run through 2027. And I'm going to get to release 12 books in a row in a brand new series, and I'm psyched.
So all I'm asking, can we take a little bit of what you're doing, somehow bottle that crack, and let the rest of us borrow just a little bit?
I am always on the market to offshore my energy so that people will go with me. This is just, I love people who will go with me. I did a challenge late last year where I was doing just an obscene number of words over the course of 44 days. I wrote 2.5 books in 44 days. No kidding. And I had a friend, I was like, hey, I'm doing this and I can't find a writer who will go with me on this. Will you go with me? And she's like, I will paint a painting every day for 44 days with you. I'm like, yes. So she's sending me pictures of her paintings, and I'm giving her word counts and excerpts. And we talked every single day, and the energy was just fantastic. And you can't do that for forever. Like I took December off, but it was so much fun to have somebody who had that energy who would just go with me. It was really fun.
So how many words a day was that for 44 days?
I was averaging 8,000 a day, I think. Yeah. It was okay. So you want to know the trick to making that work? This is the trick. I told my kids that if I had managed either 6 15-minute writing sessions or 3,500 words by the time we started dinner, they could have ice cream after dinner.
Bribery.
It worked. They came in and took my phone and left. It worked. I got my writing time, and I wouldn't want to do it for forever because I ended up sitting in my office all afternoon, every afternoon trying to get stuff done. But doing that for 44 days, that was really effective. And they ate a lot of ice cream.
I used that tactic when I want to take a nap when the kids were younger. Like, hey, wake me in an hour and then we're going to clean the house. They will leave me alone all damn day while I'm playing video
Nick,
games.
Yeah.
You get a kick out of this. You know, I told you I've been working with a nutritionist at the VA, right? Because, you know, once you lose enough weight that they know you're serious, he's not actually on staff at the VA. He actually is subcontracted. So they're not going to just send anyone there. They want to know you're serious. And he was, we had our call this morning, and he was actually telling me that ice cream, because he's trying to help people with like sweet tooths and stuff. He's like, ice cream is almost a superfood. It's got good, healthy sugars and fats in it. He said, if you don't get the super processed stuff, if you go to somewhere like a local creamery where they're going to brew it, where they're going to make it on site, and you just keep it controlled amount, it's actually really good for you. It's like
if you go to the right spot, it's high in protein too.
Yeah, so he sent me to this place that's near my mom's. It's Gillies or Gilbert's Creamery, something like that. And he's like, you could eat about 8 ounces of that a day and you're good. And I'm like, that's a lot of fucking ice cream. And they have coffee flavors. So I'm like, dude, like I'm just moving in. This is awesome. So what's your go-to ice cream flavor, since we brought it up and everyone's curious now?
Chocolate with more chocolate and then some more chocolate.
Okay. Nick, go on.
Oh man, talking ice cream here. So my inner fat kid's like screaming to get out of the.
Yeah, mine too, but I'm fighting it.
Based on kind of what I'm in the mood for, I could do cookies and cream or mint chocolate chip all day long. I get a crazy tingly taste bud for like orange sherbet or rainbow sherbet.
That's really good.
I don't know if that's technically ice cream. I think it's technically a sherbet, but it's in the name.
We'll allow it. I mean, it's in the food family. So
if I go to Baskin Robbins, it's there. It's frickin' ice cream.
If it comes in a giant bucket when you're going to get beach ice cream, it counts.
There you go.
Okay. Beach ice cream is sacred.
We got a new metric. All right. So those are technically, I just mentioned 4 flavors, but so it's either going to be cookies and cream and mint chocolate chip, or it's going to be orange sherbet or rainbow sherbet. And if I have an orange sherbet or rainbow sherbet, I have to have a Sprite or a 7-Up to go with it.
So I'm just saying that I love sherbet as well. I'm a sucker for butter pecan. I love it. And then
pralines, also another favorite.
Yep. And then I like the coffee flavored ice cream, which surprised me. I mean, I like coffee, but I'm surprised it worked as an ice cream.
Like and then coffee flavored or like mocha coffee flavored?
I like both. I lump them together. Okay. They're both different. And then if I'm going super fat kid, you go to Dairy Queen, you get their chocolate extreme blizzard, and instead of vanilla, you get a chocolate base. So it's chocolate ice cream, chocolate brownies, chocolate cookies, chocolate fudge, and a heart attack, all in one 12-ounce cup.
We really like
custard. Just raised my blood sugar up like 4 points.
We really like custard, and we do chocolate custard with Reese's and Snickers in it. Dude, you don't.
What is custard?
Custard it's made with more egg, so it's a higher protein, and its melting point is lower. So it has more flavor because it's not so deathly cold just to stay frozen.
Okay.
So you like Culver's and there's a place back where we used to live that was all they sold, and they had a window that faced outside and the tables outside like one of the old soda shops.
Cool.
And the kid there knew us by face and would have our order ready for us to pay when we got there.
A neat little piece of trivia in Norfolk, which is not too far because I live in the Tidewater region. We haven't made that a secret. But in Norfolk, they have a waffle cone maker. It is the oldest continual use waffle cone maker in the world. It's worth going there just for the experience. And I'll have to try to track it down. I went there as a kid and remember thinking it was like the greatest thing ever. But yeah, that's one of those ones. One of the things we used to do when we were younger and we'd do like family get-togethers is you do the ice cream bar where you get a little bit of ice cream and then just like a smorgasbord of whatever. Sweet Frog does it essentially, where all the random stuff you can throw into the ice cream. That is always fun to do and see what kind of crazy concoctions you can brew up. And again, they serve it with a side of diabetes. So
yes, Nick has gone to go get himself a bowl.
I would not be surprised if that's what he did. All right, so dear listener, join the discussion. We're about to play the commercial, but while we air this commercial, think about what your favorite ice cream is, and then sound off in the comments. Engage with us. We love it. We want to know you're out there listening, because sometimes we think we're crazy and talking to ourselves, even though I see the metrics, and I know you're out there, people. But please talk to us. We're lonely.
I talk to myself anyway, so we're good.
I mean, I talk to myself too, but people get really antsy when you answer yourself. So I don't know what that's about.
It's when the fight breaks out, man.
Yeah, but see, luckily in the age of the cell phone, you could just like put an earpiece in and people just assume you're talking to someone. So it kind of works ish. All right, we're going to play that beautiful commercial and then we're going to jump right back into talking about her books.
Woo.
A single blip on her instrument panel brings Boss to a halt. Alone on her spaceship in a remote quadrant, she drops below light speed and listens. Hearing a blip like that makes her heart pound. It means a faint energy signature from an unknown source, somewhere nearby, most likely a ship. Boss specializes in abandoned ships. She dives them for salvage. But this is like nothing she's ever seen, probably because she knows it can't be there. All of her knowledge of history, physics, and space wrecks says it's impossible. But if it's what she thinks, it could hold the key to a tremendous technological advance, one that no one in the universe should have. Called Page-Turning Space Adventure by Publishers Weekly, Diving into the Wreck by Christine Catherine Rush is classic science fiction at its most gripping. Find all 7 novels in the award-winning diving series at divingintotherewreck.com.
All right. Thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude. We appreciate you coming back. Nick, what'd you get? Come on. You might as well just show us.
Nothing.
Nothing. He's the kid who gets the chocolate on his mouth. Did you eat those cookies? No.
No, you ate the cookies.
That's how you know the ones that are going to grow up.
I'm
and
not
either
even
become
sorry. I'm not even sorry.
That's how you know you're going to be the one that either grows up to be the sociopath or president when they can like look at you with a straight face after they just snuck the food and it's all over their face. You ate it.
You ate the
So
cookies.
what they don't tell you as an adult is that you can have dessert before dinner. And so when I knew the commercial was coming up, I'm like, I'm not really engaged in the conversation. I can hear everything that's going on with these lovely headphones when I go into the kitchen and get myself a tasty treat, which would be mint chocolate chip ice cream.
So I could have done that, but
Small
we
bowl
had
though, it was like real small.
yeah,
Just
we had
very
chicken
small.
enchilada soup today, and then crumb cake because my mother was being decadent, and so I had 2 slices of that, and now I'm over 300 calories, so I have to make it up tomorrow. So no ice cream today. You know how Seinfeld had the soup Nazi? My house, Fort Handley, we've got like the ice cream Nazi. No ice cream for you today.
Next.
All right, so Chloe, we're gonna throw these covers up, but where did the premise that became? Well, first off, the Flight of the Kingfisher is the first book in the Carbon Chronicles. What would you say the rating for that series is for people? They want to know if they can listen to the audiobook with their family around.
Actually, this one is really close to a PG. I've had parents contact me and say how delighted they are to have a series without language and without a physicality, a romantic physicality on the page, that they can let their kids, their older kids read. It might be up into the realm of PG-13, but it's certainly nothing approaching R. The relationships, which are much later in the series, are all very PG. And there's just the lightest smattering of low end language. So, and the violence is it's standard adventure rather than up close and gory.
Okay. So what was the premise for this series?
So I met Carbon first. She is enigmatic and deeply broken and deeply violent and immensely capable. But she is an orphan as a story character goes, and I built the entire story around her. This is the figure on the cover, where she lands herself into a sort of existing found family, and is not really capable of normal human relationships, but she's capable of everything else. So she's very useful, and a lot of it is the domestication of this very bizarre, very wild character and figuring out where she came from and the consequences of her history that drive a lot of the rest of the story.
Okay. So what can you tell us about this image? Because the images are all themed. We'll go through the 6 of them because you said you're going to write more, but now the series has 5 out, 1 coming out. It'll have just released shortly before this episode airs.
Mm-hmm.
So what can you tell us about this cover? We're going to go through all of them just because they're fun. I like
They're fun. So I was working on these books, and I think I'd written 3 of them at the time and was trying to figure out how I was going to do covers. And a very good author friend of mine, his wife, Rebecca Haskell, does covers. And I was showing him a pre-made I was looking at. I was like, I like it. I'm not sure if it's exactly the quality that I'm looking for. I don't know my covers very well. And he's like, Rebecca just finished the cover for this book. It's coming up as a pre-made, and let me get you in touch with her and you can buy it before she posts it as pre-made. So I got this cover as a pre-made from an exquisite cover designer, but the character was blonde, was a platinum blonde, and I'm like, she's not a blonde. Can you make her hair brown? And because cover designers are like, yeah, no, hair's no big deal, I'll just there's the hair. And I'm like, you're amazing. And so she makes her a brunette the way that she is in the books. And then she promptly starts dyeing her hair every book. So every cover, the hair color changes because the stupid character, I love her, dyes her hair a different color basically before every major battle. And we haven't entirely figured out why she's doing that yet, but it bothers certain other characters. And at this point, that's a good part of the reason that she does it, is because it makes other people angry. So the heads up display was a major part of a battle late in that book. And I love this gun, and someday I'm going to actually use the real details of this gun in one of the books. But she's a gunslinger who she's trained as an assassin, and she is a soldier, and she has an attitude of, the one thing I know how to do is kill things. So let's go kill stuff.
Okay. And this is a slightly different look, but it is the same gun.
It is the same gun.
It's interesting that you've got the front sight post, but then a thermal electronic looking sight. So that's interesting. I suppose it's in case the first one, the electronics fail, you can go old school. That you can sell.
I suspect it's an add-on device. The front sight is installed, and the electronic has been added on as a mod.
You're the author.
So you got the standard and the aftermarket.
Yeah,
the aftermarket stuff going on. Yeah,
I'm more interested in the blue hair, but that's okay. Yes, no, she
didn't commit to the bit. She should have dyed her eyebrows.
Yep, she goes full blue and purple for a while, and it's like, no,
good for her.
She doesn't really fit with the human beings, and there's a sense of the hair is a little bit of a barometer of how far out she is from being human in her own head.
Okay, and this one she goes to red.
Yep.
The different look at the gun. I'm not sure what the little bubble is right there, but still neat. It looks real enough that I'll buy it. It doesn't look so comically fake like you see on some covers.
And the armor that she's wearing is called BattleTech.
It's damage 2, which I actually like because it adds character.
It's a powered armor system that is like, as she comes to them, she falls out of an AC duct on installation 23, and comes to them with nothing but this armor, and it's worth more than her own life to her. And it's the state-of-the-art, highest available armor that you can get, and she marches invincible. We talked in one of the episodes about the magic that makes women invincible, and she has magic armor.
Well, they say that old expression, God made man, and man and woman, and Sam Colt made them equal. Power armor.
I can't count how many times I've used that, but yeah, that's exactly what's going on here.
I think for most people, there are people that are going to be jerks about everything, and they'll never be happy with that answer when it comes to the gender stuff. For me, just make a nod to reality and something to hang my hat on, and I'll go with the author just about anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we're getting more look at the armor. No, I'm not zooming into our private parts, but I like, and it's been on all of them, is 4 numbers, which I'm not sure what they represent because they're always at 0.
Well,
I'm glad you brought that up.
Down whatever it is.
That might be a grenade. I can't tell. The circle over here. You see the markings on the sleeve that add character. You got something on her wrist. You
Yep.
can see just
More
under the
digital
sleeve.
readouts. That'll be connected to the HUD. More digital stuff in the palm. Yep. Highly technical armor.
She added purple to her hair this time.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was
Dig
blue
it.
again, but okay.
No, you
So
gotta
it
look
was,
at, you
yep,
gotta look at the
blue
ends,
and
man.
then the blue and
Like
purple.
Stabby had that going on
until-
for a while.
Yep.
It looks blue to me, but we'll go with it. All right, and this one she's got is this a HUD or is this a electrical shield of some sort?
It's a HUD.
Okay, we get a look at her helmet where it's
And we get a
reflecting.
helmet, which the helmet is a big deal when she finally ends up with that. She's running around without a helmet for a little bit.
I dig that that it's there. I like that it reflects. I still dig all the readings. It looks like a cross draw at the crotch. I'm not going to zoom in more to that because people will get the wrong impression. Not quite sure why that's there, other than to accentuate that she is a girl. But
you're holding me accountable for an awful lot of design going on here. I like that. Yeah.
I like that they took
didn't
all the way
try,
to
JR. Come on.
I really like that they took the all the way to the throat, so you can actually get a seal. Too often they forget that, and I'm like, yeah, I just got to shoot you in the neck, bro.
Well, and also it doubles as vacuum safe armor.
Yeah,
it has its own air processing, and it needs to be able to cycle all that up through the neck into the helmet.
Now she's dual wielding.
I love the dual wield.
This is almost like a P90 kind of.
Definitely very P90 inspired. Yeah, maybe a little.
But if you look, Nick, check this out. It'll shoot two at once almost. Look at the top
it's a
right.
grenade launcher. We don't know. Yeah, no, I see it. Now I'm intrigued. I think as soon as I learn the design software, I'm going to build one to 3D print it. And a bullpup. Got a bullpup design too.
You've got more feature add-on to the lower hip that looks like it might be either it's ablative, so it's going to protect more, or it's going to do something. I'm not quite sure, but
gotta protect that ass, man.
I was actually wondering if it was like. Have you seen the exoskeletons that add so you can lift more because it's on the hips and the legs?
Yeah.
It almost gives that vibes, like it allows you to carry even more.
Yeah. No, the capacity for power is massively increased because of the battle tech. She can carry, she can fight. She has a capacity for fighting that the human body does not provide. Absolutely. And it's rare.
And it actually works because like the places when you're talking about stress fractures and stress injuries that the genders get them are different. And that's actually situated to where those female stress injuries tend to happen. So it even takes into account biology even more. So I'm digging it.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yep.
So one of these days we'll get to see the back to see if there's actually something to lower back that'll support the weight. I'm not looking for a picture of body parts, people. I'm looking at the armor. All right.
I know it. He's so excited about the armor.
Nothing to do that the lower back is.
No, like if you look at the stormtrooper armor, I still haven't figured out what that little ass canister is. All right.
Yep.
It's a thermal detonator, man.
Is it so they can self-destruct?
No, so it's a last-ditch effort to pull it off and throw it. All the stormtroopers have it, even biker scouts.
Well, they got it because it was actually at one point in time where you stored the gas mask on the World War I German Wehrmacht uniform. Well, actually, no, that would have been the Kaiser.
The stormtrooper helmet only filters out smoke and particles. It doesn't filter out toxins.
No, the actual butt tube that they've got, that's based on the ones that the German soldiers wore.
Oh, I know. I'm just letting you know, in the Star Wars universe, where I let you guys know too much into my dorky brain, why I know that knowledge. Anyway, moving on.
All right. So we got cool armor. The armor plays a huge role in the series.
It really does.
Remember where the armor comes from?
It's manufactured, but it's not a. Oh yeah, the source for her armor is sort of book 2 spoilers level of knowledge, but it's something that she's earned by trial and by loss. So it's really, really precious to her, not just because it makes her who she is. She's biologically modified as well, so she's naturally stronger and has this metabolism that if she doesn't feed it, she loses weight and she becomes very, very weak and lean. She's biologically modified to be stronger and faster, but the armor is really the piece that makes her the thing that she's capable of being, which when you view yourself as a tool, as something that is defined by its utility, that armor is her entire utility as a person.
So is the armor along the lines of when you talk about earn it, like the Mandalorians earned their kit, like piece by piece kind of thing? Is it you going for that vibe?
Every piece of it comes one at a time, and each piece is harder to earn than the last.
They did that in the Hullbuster series that, I can't remember the lady's name that wrote it for the Galaxy's Edge universe. I've seen it in a lot of sci-fi, the idea that you earn your armor bit by bit, either through, doing it phase at a time in training or whatever. It's kind of cool.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't, and it drives Monty insane. He's my ship's captain. He's a retired Marine, and he finds this infuriating.
I relate.
That they would send her into a mortal peril situation without a freaking helmet. What's wrong with you people?
Why not give them the best gear to survive the encounter?
Right?
It should be in reverse. Like the more advanced you get as a fighter, you start stripping armor away.
Well, in the Hullbuster one, this was all a training, like boot camp type scenario, which makes sense. When you're talking about the Mandalorian, you're right. That always struck me as weird, but in that lore, at least it makes sense because they have to track down the metal to even make it.
Well, yeah, because they all have like Durasteel or plasteel armor in the Mandalorian.
Right. Whereas
Mandalorian, and then when they find Beskar, and Beskar's a precious metal and it only exists in one place. It's real rare. So yeah, it makes sense because it's more of a it's stronger. It has more protection. However, it's also their ancestral metal. So the more they can find and the more feats they acquire, they're able to acquire this armor and this metal and have it made into armor. And
that works. But
it's an interesting part.
So let's move on because I don't want to make this the armor hour. Although Nick, we ought to let's pencil that down.
There's a panel right there. Armor Wars, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Arms and armor as a panel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a 4-part series. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, so we don't act surprised when we do the first one. We're like, oh, we can dive more into this subject, and then we do like 3 other panels on it. Yeah, it's a 4-panel series.
So when we started, when Nick and I were the solo hosts and we grabbed Stabby, we started a list that was 1 page long of just ideas and topics because now that we were changing how we did things, StreamYard's changed how they did things to allow us some flexibility. We're like, we'll just keep take an idea, replace it with an idea. I thought it'd stay about 1 page. It's a 19-page document now. Every episode leads to like 4 or 5 more.
Yeah.
I will die before I get through this list of podcast topics.
Created a monster. We're going to have to put our brains into AI after we long pass to continue the show.
Have you seen the Fallout TV series? We're going to be like the brain in the jar that's on the little Zumba robot thingy that's just floating around. That's going to be us.
No, but that's all. I haven't seen Fallout yet.
It's good.
I'm getting to it. It's in the queue, but I'm thinking more like altered carbon. We're going to need to pull the disc out of one body, stick it in the other so we can keep going. Which I really want a season 3 because I think
so. But so you mentioned, you mentioned that she was genetic. Was she biologically modified, genetically engineered, genetically modified?
Medically, biologically modified. Her face is altered. Her biology is enhanced and altered. So
we're talking like the Spartan program or
something like that.
Warhammer 40K has a version. I don't know what it's called.
It's a muscle enhancing steroid that is manufactured and infused by a device in her body. Right.
So are we taking like Schwarzenegger kind of steroid that makes you talk funny, or just normal?
It's stimulant. It's stimulant level stuff, and I've been told in the reviews that I don't understand the biology of muscles at all, and I'm like, I'm writing science fiction, and I think you'll find that I'm not as wrong as you think I am.
So are we
Mm,
talking like, okay, so there's
Just
two ways to
saying,
do this.
as we kind of do
So-
our research. I'm just saying.
So in Terry Mixon, he did the Imperial Marines. They had actual like things injected into them that would release like hormones for
Devices.
emergency, to
Yeah.
fight pain, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
then they just refill the canisters. I don't remember if it was in the body or if it was in the armor, and then the armor injected it into the body. But
This is biologically synthesized, so it's self-sustaining.
that's
But
what I was
it
going to
is
ask.
an
So,
implanted device. So
this
she
is one of
can't.
those ones where if you get far away from resupply, you're screwed, or kind of thing. That's the drawback for that
It's
kind of
that
thing.
she doesn't have the ability to turn it off or remove it.
So then it makes the survival situation worse because your food
Very
is,
difficult to survive. Yeah.
yeah,
When
because
they first come upon her, she is most of the way to starved and just barely getting by. Because the other thing that happened to her when she ran away from home was they blanked her identity. So she no longer has access to commerce. She's not a person, and she struggles to feed herself. And that's, it's not a moment of pity that they take her on. It's definitely a managed hostage situation, sort of an event where she has what they
and they're pointing it in the right direction and hoping for the best.
she has what they need, and she's not going to hand it over. And so Avery, my ship's engineer, very cheerfully suggests that they just bring her with them, because why not? And he's up for this adventure, and Monty thinks that this is the stupidest thing he's ever heard.
Oh,
But
Chloe, this is reminding me of the situation that Nick and I have both been in, where you take a machine gun and for whatever reason it just overheats and it starts cooking, and you have two choices. You can run away. I mean, sometimes that's the safe one, or you can do what we call ride the lightning and hope for the best. It sounds like that's what they're doing. They've got the tiger by the tail and they're not letting go.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Okay, so is this genetic modification, is this prevalent? Is this only to the elites? Like what are we talking here for the tech?
It's unheard of. The technology and the methods that have been used on her are novel and invented by people that nobody even knows exist.
So secret shadow government organization or aliens?
It's a separate civilization.
Okay. All right. So what other tech can we expect? Because we're kind of talking about the world building. So let's expand that out a little bit, and then we'll move to talk about plots and characters. But
Yeah.
what other things? I mean, obviously they got space flight.
Yep. So my ship's engineer, Avery, is one of those sort of polymath guys who he came out of a really rough background and is very, very capable. He's probably only hit 2 or 3 people in his whole life. He survives by wit and by capability and by charm. And so he runs everything on the ship just on the edge of his imagination. If he can come up with a way to do something differently and try it, he will. So we have Nelson engines that generate a Nelson shield and allow you to travel faster than the speed of light. And we have pop stabilizers, which allow you to go from one point in the universe to another point in the universe. And those 2 points are fixed, and nobody has any clue how people find them, but by just trying. But trying to cross a pop that you don't know where it is, or you don't have stabilizers capable of getting you through it, you turn into white noise. This is the myth of what happens to you, because you're never seen or heard from again. So somehow we know where a number of these pops are, and so we can get from one system to another using faster than light speed and a point-to-point transit system. And so we have all of these, and artificial gravity is a thing, and so we have an artificial gravity engine. And the technology underlying that is something that he's constantly dickering with and doing strange things. The pop stabilizers run on thiol fluid, which is something that you can only gather once you're inside of a pop, because it's sort of the stuff that the universe is made out of. Maybe nobody really knows what it is. We just know how it works. And it disappears into nothing. If after a certain number of days, weeks, it has kind of a half-life to it. So if you're not crossing pops regularly, your thiol engines, your thiol supply for your pop stabilizers will dry up, and you have to go find a thiol distributor to fill them back up again so that you can cross pops again. And so there's a lot of maintenance and management of the ship itself that is part of Avery's daily life, and he's just so much fun to run around with and doing all of his crazy experimentation and just normal maintenance stuff. This is kind of who I am as a person in my real life, is the maintenance of systems and understanding how you can make them work together. That is his whole existence. So we have a lot of stuff that is very much magic hand wavium science fiction stuff, but at the same time we're experiencing it from the point of view of an engineer who understands how the machines work, even if he doesn't actually understand how the underlying physics and deep science works. Because once you understand the concept of once you understand the concept of what the engine is intended to do, you can do fun stuff with it, even if you don't really understand what a photon is.
So one of the things that I do like to see, and you see it a lot more in the superhero genre than sci-fi, but it definitely applies, is when you take the base trope element, like an elemental, and then you can use it creatively to give powers if you understand, like I've seen, I'm a nature mage, and somehow they're channeling electricity because they understand like lightning and stuff. Or they can, they just, you take the core idea and then you get creative in the application. It's always nice to see people that do that, and you can do that with the science too. And it doesn't have to be real in the sense that they're doing it now, but I mean, if you'd have told people in the 70s when they were, or I guess it was the 60s when they were watching the original Star Trek, that those handheld camcorder things would be in everyone's pocket.
Everybody's going to have one of those.
Right? I mean, 60 years later. And so it doesn't have to be real to inspire people to make it real. Just like Miguel Alcubierre, I know I'm butchering his name, people, but he's the Mexican physicist who wrote the theory on how to make warp drive mathematically feasible. Why? Because he was a Star Trek fan.
Yep.
And so
that's how we got iPads.
Yeah, it's aspirational is good enough. And I if you're saying you're hard sci-fi, not you specifically, if the generic you is saying the book is hard sci-fi, then it better be. But otherwise, like we read it to be, uplifted and kind of about the possibilities. Even in a grimdark sci-fi, like it's still the possibilities of the tech.
Absolutely. I like to ride sort of a line between the underlying technologies are clearly magic. Somebody invented them that understood stuff that none of my characters are ever going to understand. And I don't feel any need to explain it to my audience because none of us know how computers work either. And I am actually really good at understanding how computers work. I took those classes. But at the end of the day, the chemistry and the physics are beyond our understanding as human beings. And so I'm taking technology that has rules, and then I treat those as really crunchy sci-fi rules. So I have a lot of magic running around, but it has a little bit of a harder science fiction feel to it because the technology is so central to a lot of what's going on.
I always counter to people that get like that and remind them that they can drive a car, but they probably can't explain a combustion engine to me.
And I know the chemistry of combustion well enough to teach it to you in about 15 minutes. But do you actually know how atomic bonds work?
Nope.
Because that's bonds. How does H2O have two little sticks connecting the H's to the O? That's still deep magic, y'all.
Well, and that's the funny one. You see it every year when people want to get stupid about ideas, and you'll get they truck them with the dihydrogen monoxide, and it's basically like the chemical name for water, and it's bad for the environment. Will you sign this petition? So all these people that are saying they're so smart that they want to insult sci-fi, I'm like, bro, you're not as smart as you think you are.
Right.
But with that, so with the weapons, you've mentioned the hyperspace kind of vibe. So you get around warp, you call it something different, but everyone does, right?
Yeah.
But what about weapons? Are we talking chemical propellant like we have today, lasers, plasma, torches? Like what kind of weapon tech is this universe?
The ship that we're on is a smuggling ship, so it's basic transit and is shielded against
so stealth.
It's not even really intended to be stealthy. It's just a merchant trader that goes places that you cut the beacon off of the ship and don't tell people that you've been there, and you cross internet. The civilized galaxy is broken into zones, and you cross the zone boundaries through smuggler pops that aren't regulated and aren't tracked, and you take stuff to planets where it's in demand and isn't getting there for whatever political reason or social reason that's going on, and most of it is civilian goods that they're smuggling around. That said, we do have a lot of guns running around because Carbon shows up. And a lot of what they're doing is energy weapons. They have plasma systems that are used for shielding and for really intense weapons where just plasma will cut through anything when an energy weapon may not have the oomph for it. And there's still chemical projectiles running around the because it's always going to be the cheapest and the easiest to make. Gunpowder and a piece of lead is always going to be the easiest, cheapest thing to get your hands on.
You don't even need to use real gunpowder. We replaced it with cordite and other things and tannerite.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that gets me about some people in science fiction in general. Like, oh, we're all plasma now. I'm like, okay, but the other stuff still exists. It doesn't just go away because
it's
you
so much
transition.
cheaper, and it's fit for purpose still.
I mean, people still have swords in a world where guns are a thing, right? We didn't just throw them all away.
And energy is never going to be free. So an energy weapon, you have to have a source to charge it. You have to be able to maintain it. And in a society where power is not necessarily a given and access to power is not consistent, a projectile weapon that's what keeps you alive. So those are still running around. And then you have the really high-end military stuff that at this point, a lot of it is information rather than physical. So there's a lot of conflict in a digital domain going on. We have a ship's AI called Harper that Avery has set loose in a lot of ways that are only marginally legal. And she's one of the really fun characters who goes out and is involved in a digital landscape that is every bit as complex and relevant as the physical landscape.
So you didn't know this, but that's actually Nick's middle name, only marginally legal.
I work in law enforcement, which shocked everybody.
All right, Nick, you had a question for her.
Yeah, so we talked a lot about the tech and the protagonist. What's the society like in your series?
Mm-hmm. It's mostly high tech. It's a single currency across all of the zones. And it's all digital. I've only found a few places that use a physical currency, and it means that getting blanked is very nearly a death sentence. There are only certain places in the civilized galaxy that you could make a living as anything other than a thief.
So is it like a federalization of planets? Like they all kind of fall under one flag?
The different zones have different political structures. Central and Balance are the two biggest. They have large militaries. They're constantly at war, claiming systems back and forth. The boundaries are inconceivably complex because pops define the boundary between two places, which means that in 3 dimensions, it becomes a fourth dimension almost, where how far can I get into this territory and claim everything around that, and where are the resources that are highest demand. So they have a central system or set of systems that are their most political and most connected. We stay away from those. Smugglers have no business going into those regions. So we tend to be out in other sections of the galaxy where the systems are less concerned with a centralized authority. The galaxy is simply too big for a centralized authority.
So you're going like space western, Firefly vibe kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Alliance, backwater planets, things like that.
And so we also have the upper and lower vast, which were intended to be colonized by the adjoining zones. But at this point, they're organizing politically in an agnostic sense of we don't want to be part of a political system. So they're fighting off
So would pops work for people trying to conceptualize this? It's almost like wormholes, like the Stargate kind of vibe.
Conceptually, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now, when they're in the pop, when they're traveling that way, is it like instantaneous in one side out the other, like you sometimes see in sci-fi, or is it more like they're traveling through the wormhole, like there's no wrong answer. I'm just curious how you handle
In
it.
my head, it looks like the opening credits to Doctor Who.
Okay.
If one of the shields fails while you're crossing, reality sort of twists around and becomes weird. And Monty at one point says it felt like my brain was dripping out my ear, and Avery answers it probably was. But once you've reached the far end of the pop, which might be anywhere from 5 or 15 seconds, everything snaps back to its natural reality. All of that distortion of reality inside of the pop, which is mostly shielded off. It's usually only when that the shields are failing as you cross a pop that weird happens. But once you get to the other side of the pop, everything becomes exactly as it was on the front end, as long as you survive the crossing.
So if the crossings are that quick, do you factor in what culture is going to look like in a world where it's more instantaneous? I mean, like the culture in the colonies versus the United Kingdom, Great Britain, whatever they were known as back then, is vastly different because the transient time, right? When you get rid of the transient time, there's a more enmeshing of the cultures, and you can see that if you apply that globally or interstellarly, the farther apart they are, the more they'll have cultural drift. Whereas if travel is instantaneous, there's really no cultural drift.
The thing about pops is that they're a fixed location in space.
Okay.
So they're not always convenient.
Okay.
You map out a course from here to there, and typically it's on the order of 2 to 6 weeks, where most of that is spent flying through black space. The pop is just, we have light years between us and the next star.
So
the reality is, if you're going to cross to another system, you need to have something across this big space, and then you have sort of weeks on the other side at multiples of light speed, just to make those distances make any sense. But it does have a unifying effect on culture, and commerce specifically is one of the ones that I'm really interested in, because you can get something from here to there, and it doesn't take years, it doesn't take months. It takes weeks typically to get something from here to there. And power is the same way. The military is hard to stop. How do you fight space battles where they can get anywhere they want in the space of a few weeks? And if they have access to military pops, which are a whole different list of known pops that aren't known to the public, those battles are really interesting and
chaotic.
A lot of them end up being terrestrial rather than space-based, because they're trying to claim planets. And that's where they finally sit down and are somewhere that you can find them. And so a lot of the fighting, which I haven't done any real, that's not true. I have done one space-based military fight. Most of the military fighting is in Monty's past. This is something that he has walked away from. He did stuff that he did not like having to do, and fell out of love with the idea of being with his unit. He ended up leading it at the end and was like, no, I'm done with this. And left the military with no life plan. He just couldn't continue to do the things that Central expected him to do. And I'm actually working on a prequel novella with how he ends up transitioning from being part of the Terriers, his specialized unit, to being a smuggler.
Specialized unit named after a tiny yapping dog?
They go and they get things, and they either kill it dead or they bring it back. They're fast.
I like it.
Okay. So how many ships can go through a pop at a time? Are we talking onesies and twosies or whole fleets? Because it's a choke point if only a few can go through at a time.
It is a choke point. It's only going to be really one or two, because the physical space inside of the pop is it's conceptual. Nobody actually understands what's in there and what you're going through. We just know that it generates Thiel field, and as long as you have Thiel field to power your pop stabilizers, you can get through it. but do you want to be in there at the same time as another ship? That sounds real dumb, because if they blow up, you're going to blow up.
It's technically
Maybe-
a wormhole, so yeah, there's
So
challenges there.
Yeah, so there is a major choke point to going through with large fleets. I haven't done that one. I've only gone across as a singleton ship or in a pair of ships.
That almost means you have like a Coast Guard traffic cop kind of vibe sitting at end of each one. Like if you've ever passed on a construction site and the one side they're like, no, hold up, and they stop traffic, and then this side they let traffic through, and then they like you almost have to have that level of coordination at the bottlenecks to control flow.
I think that the size of the galaxy is big enough that humanity is too small for that to be relevant. But they do on major pops have repeaters that have shuttles that go back and forth between the two ends of the pop in order to take data across, because data is really slow compared to everything else that we're doing here, unless I speed it up with some more sleight of hand. And so you have ships that are crossing pops in order to take data from one side to the other. And so the data network you have to conceptually picture on top of everything has a similar but different shape to it, where getting information from one place to another goes through a set of pops as well. And it might take you 2 weeks for a message to bounce around the system long enough to find you. And those ships are a big part of that. So there's security involved in them. There's maintenance and regulation involved in them. And then you have smugglers who are using stuff that's just completely unmarked and unknown to regulating authorities.
So does this universe have aliens in it, or is it just humans and genetically altered humans?
The Avery is obsessed with aliens. They're rare enough. They're rare enough that most people have only heard about them in stories. There are a couple of planets that have had alien civilizations that were considered to be evolved enough to be included into human commerce. And some of them ended up being heavily colonized and shoved aside and basically went more or less culturally extinct. And others were capable of commercial competition and thrived, but tended to remain isolated on their original planet rather than expanding out into the rest of the universe, because you stay home if that's where you're safe and where you're prosperous. So there are lots of theories about how aliens work and where you find them and the different kinds of cultures that you're going to find when you find aliens. But the number of alien races that they've stumbled across in their domestication of the galaxy is small enough that those are all still just theories. And Avery does not meet an alien until book 2. And he's
so there's two things that factor in everyone, and we've talked about this before, so I won't like harp on it. But one, most of the time when people think aliens, they think the sapient ones, right? The ones that are intellectual, equivalent of us with just weird bodies. I mean, every time you go to a foreign planet, and there's plant and flora and fauna and animals and critters, and technically that's all alien. Which brings me to the next question. When they're on these various planets, is it habitable planets, as in like mirror clones to Earth kind of vibe, or are they living in domes everywhere else?
They're nearly all habitable planets.
Okay.
Various different geologies, and I'm a nerd. I'm looking at what's the axial rotation and the rate of spin, and what are the continents look like, and therefore what are your biological zones. Monty comes from a place called Walden 6, where everything is just rabidly competitive for resources. There's nothing that is sentient in the way of a competing race of people, but the animals will kill you dead. The plants will kill you dead. The bacteria will kill you dead. The parasites will kill you. They have to live very, very aggressively just to keep a foothold there. And everything has to be decontaminated every time they leave, because if they accidentally brought any of that stuff with them, it would knock out.
I was just going to say Space Australia.
Yes. And so we go hunting for tivers, and tivers are so much fun. They're stronger than you, they're faster than you, they're smarter than you. They come in packs, and nobody on the ship wants to meet a tiver. Not in their worst nightmare would they consider this to be an ideal. And Carbon is immediately like, I'm gonna go kill one. I need to know that I can. That's just who she is.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that's interesting. So this series obviously goes on and on. Is it the same cast and characters from book to book, or is it mostly focused on Carbon?
The core family is the main set of characters. You have Avery the engineer, Monty the captain, and these are the two main point of view characters in point of fact. Carbon is our introduced character, who is very much a wild animal by comparison. Then we have Savannah, and Savannah is a surfer who had an implant put into her head when she was 8 years old, so that she could physically link up to digital systems and surf. And so she is digital native in a way that human beings don't have a concept for. Nobody on the ship really even understands how her existence feels to her, because she links up to the data systems on the ship, and they're part of it's a sensory perception of data and information that she can go through. So she is intelligence and research, and she's also super sweet. Everybody else there kind of has this hard knock life that they're getting over one way or another, and she's just kind. She's lovely. And you have
is your AI inspired by like the Cortana then?
Harper is not unlike Cortana. That's accurate. She doesn't understand emotions, and she doesn't really understand existing in three-dimensional space.
Okay.
And she also has no concept of privacy, because the ship has enough sensors going on that she knows by the breath that you exhale what's going on in your body chemically. And she'll tell you.
So has that led to some funny scenes? Because I imagine you could get the privacy jokes and set up embarrassing.
Yep. And Avery and Harper are absolutely best friends. So he uses her just shamelessly. And she technically belongs to Monty because she belongs with the ship. And so there's a tension between Harper does anything that Avery tells her to do, and technically Monty is in charge and the captain and in charge of everything. And Avery is not insubordinate. He just has a really good sense of humor.
So is the AI truly sentient and like, or is it just algorithms? Like, does it?
No, she is a person.
Okay.
She's not supposed to be, but we broke the rules, and Avery has allowed her a personhood. So
Okay.
these are my core cast, and they show up consistently for all of the books.
Obviously, like, we're dancing really, really close with all my questions to spoiler territory, and we want people to read the book. So one, I will link to the series. The first book in the series is called The Flight of the Kingfisher. I'm assuming that's the name of their smuggling ship.
Yes.
It's the Carbon Chronicles is a series, so you can check it out yourself. It is an audiobook as well. So for people like me who listen with or read with their ears, it is available for you. I listened to the sample. The guy did a good job. And it's none of that nonsense AI voice narrated garbage. I can't stand that.
I loved Wesley's performance. We're working on getting book 2 uploaded literally today. Nice.
All right. So is there anything else we need to, like, we didn't ask you that you think we need to know about the series?
I think we've covered a lot of ground. I was concerned that contrasting this with Verita, this is what built this series and this is where it's going. These are standalone books, standalone adventures with big character arcs that are going on, but they're just fun adventures running around with a ship full of misfits.
Okay.
Bunch of miscreants.
This is the part,
Indeed.
dear listener, where we remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right book. So after you read this, because we know you're going to want to, go to Chloe's page, leave a 5-star review, tell her she's awesome, and which character you liked the best. 5 stars, 10 stars if they'll let you. Vote once, vote twice, vote often. Isn't that what they say at Tammany Hall? And with that, since we sold the series, I'm definitely... my interest is there now, but how can we find you on the wild interwebs?
The best place to find me is on my Facebook group. This is where I hang out with readers who really love these stories and love the storytelling. If you're looking for a little bit more information and a little bit less interaction, my website is great. I keep that updated with what I'm working on and what's coming up next. And if you want down to the minute, this is what just happened, sign up for my newsletter. I send out notices when I've got new books out.
Okay. Nick, I know you got a bail. Stabby's threatening to cut you because your tacos are done, but I have one last question because you reminded me, Chloe. So Nick, bounce, we got it. We appreciate you coming on. Chloe, you mentioned your readers group, and it reminded me of your fantasy series and, the tea thing, right? Mm-hmm. So what is carbon drinking? Because you have a food thing. Like, it's almost the food cast when you write your books. So what is Carbon and crew drinking? Is it tea, coffee, Coke?
Carbon drinks wine, and she drinks whiskey.
Okay.
A lot of it is ship's rations. Monty likes ship's rations. They make him feel safe, contained, and prepared, which is not glamorous food. But there's a lot of, we have a meal, we prepare what's there. We talk about what's going to get bought at the next stop because that was good.
So more like Navy ship galley where they're actually cooking food. Are we talking Star Trek food replicators? Are we talking the Matrix food paste in a tube?
They have a kitchen.
Okay.
But Monty will cut you if you call it that. It's the mess hall.
Or the galley because it's a Navy ship.
It's a good point.
But hey, I don't want to get cut by Monty. So, all right. With that, dear listener, you can find us on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blaze podcast, where we link to all the things, the BitChutes, the Rumbles, the YouTubes, the TikToks. Maybe it's still up in the air. The Twitter, the Spotify, our Blasters and Blaze Facebook group and Facebook page. We have our email, blastersandblazepodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandblazepodcast@gmail.com. For professional purposes only, people save the shenanigans from Madam Stabby Stab on the Instagram, Twitters, and the emails. Again, save the shenanigans from Madam Stabby Stab on the Instagram, Twitters, and the emails. We've gotten a few of you getting spicy in there, and I'm just saying I forwarded to Stabby anyway. You can support the show over at buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section this is for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee brand coffee until Stabby cuts Nick and it pours out of his wounds because it's in his bloodstream, people. And if you want some of that on your own, if you want to see, sound, and hear colors, then you can go to the link in the show notes. Use the code PODCASTGRUNTS. You get 10% off. We get a kickback. It's a win-win. You're shopping local because this is an American-made company roasted in the United States. This is not a drop shipping operation, people. And with that, I want to thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time. We'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And since Nick's not here, imagine the finger waves or whatever he does. And with that, we're going to hit the end button.